She never thought working at the city's most exclusive restaurant would end with cold water dripping down her face and a room full of people watching her humiliation. The billionaire's daughter stood there laughing, phone recording every second, while Emma tried not to cry in front of everyone. But what neither of them knew was that the old man in the corner booth had seen everything, and he wasn't just any customer. What he did next would shatter everything that arrogant girl thought she knew about power. What would you do if someone humiliated you in public and you discovered they were about to lose everything? To understand how one glass of water changed 3 lives forever, we need to go back to the moment Emma walked into Sterling Heights for her first shift. Emma's hands shook as she tied her apron in the staff room of Sterling Heights, the most expensive restaurant in the city. She needed this job desperately. Her mother's medical bills were piling up, and the eviction notice on their apartment door gave them 2 weeks to come up with 3 months' rent. This job paid triple what she made at the diner, but it also terrified her. She had never worked anywhere this fancy, where a single plate cost more than her weekly groceries. The head waiter, Marcus, led her through the main dining room, and Emma felt like she had stepped into a dream. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting warm light over tables draped in silk. Every surface gleamed. The guests wore clothes that probably cost more than her car, speaking in quiet voices over wine that cost hundreds of dollars per glass. "Station 4 is yours tonight," Marcus said, pointing to a section near the floor-to-ceiling windows. "Just stay calm, be polite, and remember everything we trained you on. You'll do fine." Emma nodded, trying to swallow her anxiety. She could do this. She had to do this. Her first few tables went smoothly. A kind, elderly couple complimented her service. A business group barely noticed her, too focused on their deals. Emma started to relax, started to think maybe she belonged here after all. Then they walked in. 3 young women, probably in their early 20s, dressed in designer everything. They moved through the restaurant like they owned it, laughing too loudly, completely unbothered by the stares they attracted. The one in the middle, wearing a white dress that probably cost more than Emma's entire year of rent, had that particular look of someone who had never been told no in her entire life. Marcus appeared at Emma's elbow. "That's Victoria Sterling," he whispered. "The owner's granddaughter. Be extra careful with that table. She's difficult." Emma's stomach dropped, but she straightened her shoulders and approached the table with her best smile. "Good evening, ladies. Welcome to Sterling Heights. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Victoria looked up at her with cold, assessing eyes. "Do you even know what we serve here, or are you new?" Emma felt heat creep up her neck. "I'm familiar with the menu, ma'am. We have an excellent wine selection, or if you prefer." "Ma'am?" Victoria's friends giggled. "Do I look old enough to be called ma'am? God, where did they find you?" Emma forced her smile to stay in place. "I apologize. What would you like to drink?" Victoria ordered the most expensive champagne on the menu, then spent the next 10 minutes changing her food order 3 times, sending Emma back to the kitchen repeatedly. Each time, her friends laughed, and Emma felt smaller and smaller. When Emma finally brought out their appetizers, Victoria examined each plate like she was looking for flaws. "This garnish is wilted," she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Emma looked at the plate. The garnish was perfect. "I can have the chef prepare a new one if you'd like." "Obviously." Victoria pushed the plate toward Emma dismissively, and Emma noticed she was recording on her phone, probably for social media. Emma took the plate back to the kitchen, her face burning. The chef looked at the rejected appetizer and shook his head. "There's nothing wrong with this. That girl just likes making scenes." "Please," Emma said quietly. "Just make another one. I need this job." The chef's expression softened, and he prepared a new plate, identical to the first. Emma brought it back out, hands steady through sheer force of will. Victoria barely glanced at it before waving her away. The evening continued like that. Nothing Emma did was right. The water wasn't cold enough. The bread basket arrived too slowly. The entrees were too hot, then too cold. Victoria's friends followed her lead, treating Emma like she was invisible or incompetent, sometimes both. Emma endured it all, thinking about her mother in the hospital, about the bills, about the eviction notice. She could handle this. It was just one table, just one night. Then came the final straw. Emma was refilling Victoria's water glass when Victoria suddenly turned, bumping Emma's arm. Water splashed onto the white tablecloth, missing Victoria by inches. "You clumsy idiot!" Victoria shrieked, jumping up from her chair. "You almost ruined my dress. This dress costs $15,000. Do you have any idea what that means?" "I'm so sorry," Emma stammered. "You turned an eye. Are you seriously trying to blame me?" Victoria's voice rose higher. "You're the worst waitress I've ever seen. You shouldn't be working at a place like this. You should be working at some trashy diner where nobody cares if you're incompetent." Emma felt tears prickling her eyes, but she held them back. The entire restaurant had gone silent. Everyone was watching. She saw other servers frozen in place, saw diners with forks halfway to their mouths, saw Marcus starting to move toward them. "I apologize," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let me clean this up." Victoria grabbed her own water glass, still half full. "You want to spill water? Let me show you how it feels." Emma saw it happening but couldn't move fast enough. Victoria threw the water directly in her face. The cold shock took Emma's breath away. Water dripped from her hair, ran down her face, soaked into her uniform. She stood there frozen, humiliated beyond words, while Victoria's friends laughed and recorded everything on their phones. "That's what you get," Victoria said, her voice full of contempt. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before being so careless around your betters." Emma couldn't speak, couldn't move. She felt the stares of every person in the restaurant, felt the weight of her humiliation crushing her chest. This was it. She was going to get fired. She would lose everything. Her mother would lose everything. The tears finally came, hot against her cold, wet cheeks. Enough. The voice was quiet but carried absolute authority. An elderly man stood up from a corner booth Emma hadn't even noticed. He was distinguished looking, in his 70s maybe, wearing an expensive suit but not flashy. He moved slowly toward their table, and something about his presence made the entire restaurant hold its breath. Victoria turned toward him, irritation flashing across her face. "Excuse me, but this is none of your..." She stopped mid-sentence, her face going pale. "Grandpa." The old man's expression was carved from ice. "Victoria Sterling, what exactly do you think you're doing?" Emma's mind reeled. This was the owner? The grandfather Marcus had mentioned? Victoria's confidence crumbled. "She spilled water on me. She's been terrible all night. I've been sitting in that booth for 2 hours, the old man said, his voice deadly calm. "I watched everything. I watched this young woman serve you with patience and professionalism while you treated her like garbage. I watched you create problems where none existed. I watched you bully her for your own entertainment." Victoria's friends had stopped laughing. They looked terrified. "And then," he continued, his disappointment cutting deeper than any anger could, "I watched you assault her. In my restaurant. In front of all these people." "It was just water," Victoria protested weakly. "It was cruelty," he corrected. "It was everything I taught you not to be." He turned to Emma, and his expression softened. "Young lady, I apologize on behalf of my family. This is not who we are, and this is not how we treat people." Emma didn't know what to say. She was still dripping, still shaking, still trying to process what was happening. The old man looked back at Victoria. "You're cut off." "What?" Victoria's voice cracked. "Your credit cards, your allowance, your apartment, your car. All of it. As of this moment, you have nothing but what you've earned yourself. You can't do that." Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. "I'm your granddaughter. You can't just..." "I can and I have. Maybe when you learn what it means to work for something, to struggle, to be treated the way you treat others, you'll understand why this matters." He gestured to Marcus. "Please escort my granddaughter and her friends out. They won't be welcome here until Victoria learns some basic human decency." As Victoria was led away, still protesting, still threatening, the old man turned back to Emma. "What's your name?" "Emma," she managed to say. "Emma Chin." "Emma, would you join me at my table? I'd like to hear your story." Emma followed the old man to his corner booth, still dripping, still trembling, completely unsure what was happening. She slid into the seat across from him, hyper-aware of the water staining the expensive leather. "Please, don't worry about the seat," he said gently. "I'm Robert Sterling, though I suppose you figured that out. And I owe you another apology beyond what I already gave." Emma shook her head. "You don't owe me anything. I'm just a waitress. You're a person who deserves dignity and respect, regardless of your job title." Robert signaled to Marcus, who hurried over. "Please bring Emma a warm towel and some tea. And tell the kitchen to prepare whatever she'd like for dinner." "I can't," Emma started. "You can and you will." Humor an old man. Marcus disappeared, and Robert studied Emma with kind, tired eyes. "How long have you been working here?" "This is my first night," Emma admitted, and despite everything, she almost laughed at the absurdity. "Great start, right?" Robert smiled sadly. "I'm afraid my granddaughter has made a habit of this. This isn't the first time she's treated staff poorly. But it will be the last, at least in my establishments." "You really cut her off?" Emma asked. Completely. Victoria has never worked a day in her life. Everything she has came from family money, and she's never appreciated any of it. She's never had to struggle or worry or wonder where her next meal comes from." He paused. "But you have, haven't you?" Emma didn't know why she told him. Maybe it was the gentleness in his voice. Maybe it was because she had already lost all dignity tonight and had nothing left to protect. Maybe it was because he was the first person in a long time who seemed to genuinely see her. The words spilled out. Her mother's cancer diagnosis. The medical bills that insurance wouldn't cover. The second job she worked during the day. The eviction notice. The crushing weight of trying to hold everything together while watching her mother get weaker. "I needed this job so badly," Emma finished, tears flowing freely now. "And I ruined it. She's your granddaughter, and I probably got her kicked out, and now I'll definitely be fired, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Emma, look at me." Robert's voice was firm but kind. "You didn't ruin anything. Victoria did. And you're not fired. In fact, if you want to continue working here, you have a place for as long as you need it." Emma couldn't believe what she was hearing. "But she's family. I'm nobody." "You're not nobody. You're someone who came to work despite being terrified. Someone who endured abuse with grace. Someone who's fighting for their mother." He leaned forward. "That's not nobody. That's someone with more character than my granddaughter has shown in 23 years. Marcus returned with tea and warm towels. Emma cleaned her face, feeling the shock finally starting to fade, replaced by exhaustion. "Thank you," she whispered, "for standing up for me. For believing me. I didn't just believe you. I saw it with my own eyes." Robert sipped his own tea thoughtfully. "Can I tell you something, Emma? I built Sterling Heights 40 years ago with money I earned working in kitchens and construction sites. I know what it means to be where you are. And somewhere along the way, I failed to teach my children and grandchildren that lesson. I gave them everything, and in doing so, I gave them nothing of value." "You're trying to teach her now," Emma pointed out. "Yes. Though I fear it may be too late." He looked genuinely sad. "But perhaps not. Perhaps she'll learn what real life is like and become a better person for it." They talked for another hour. Robert asked about Emma's mother, about her treatment, about her prognosis. He asked about Emma's life, her dreams, what she wanted to do beyond just surviving. And Emma, exhausted and emotionally raw, found herself answering honestly. "I wanted to study nursing," she admitted. "I wanted to help people like the nurses who take care of my mom. But colleges, it's impossible right now." Robert nodded slowly, and Emma could see him thinking, but he didn't make any grand promises or offers. He just listened. Finally, he stood. "Emma, thank you for indulging an old man's company. You should go home and rest. Tomorrow is your day off, yes?" Emma nodded. "Good. Spend it with your mother. You'll be back on schedule after that, and I promise, no more scenes like tonight." He handed her his business card. "If you ever need anything, or if anyone gives you trouble, you call me directly. Understood?" Emma took the card with shaking hands. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling. For everything." "Robert," he corrected gently. "And Emma? You're stronger than you know. Don't forget that." Emma left the restaurant that night with her uniform still damp, her emotions still raw, but feeling something she hadn't felt in months, seen. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Emma worked her shifts at Sterling Heights, and true to Robert's word, the staff treated her with respect and kindness. Marcus pulled her aside after her second shift to apologize for not intervening sooner with Victoria, and the other servers welcomed her genuinely. She heard through restaurant gossip that Victoria had indeed been cut off completely. Someone saw her applying for jobs at retail stores. Someone else heard she'd moved into a modest apartment, her luxury penthouse taken away. The Instagram account that once flaunted expensive vacations and designer clothes went silent. Emma tried not to take pleasure in it, but she couldn't help feeling that justice had been served. Robert became a regular fixture at his corner booth. He came in several times a week, always requesting Emma's section when she was working. They would talk during her breaks, and Emma came to treasure those conversations. He never offered her money or made grand gestures, but he offered something more valuable: genuine friendship and guidance. One evening, about a month after the incident, Emma was clearing Robert's table when he handed her an envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "Open it at home," he said with a mysterious smile. That night, in her tiny apartment with her mother sleeping in the next room, Emma opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and a check. The check made her gasp. It was enough to cover 3 months of her mother's treatments and their back rent with some left over. But it was the letter that made her cry. "This is not charity. This is an investment in someone I believe in. Your strength, your kindness, your determination, these are rare qualities. Use this money to take care of your mother without the crushing weight of immediate worry. Use it to breathe. I'm not offering you a job in my company or changing your life with wealth. That's not real. That's not earned. What I'm offering is a chance to fight your battles without quite so many enemies at once. You'll still work. You'll still struggle. You'll still have hard days. But perhaps not quite as many, and perhaps with a little more hope. You have my respect, Emma. That's worth more than money, and you earned it all on your own. Robert." Emma held the letter to her chest and cried, but this time the tears were different. They were relief and gratitude and something like hope. She continued working at Sterling Heights. The money helped her mother get better treatment, and slowly, the crushing weight began to lift. Emma started taking online nursing classes, one at a time, fitting them between her shifts. Life didn't magically transform. There were still hard days, still bills to pay, still moments of doubt and fear. But Emma was fighting her way forward, and now she had something she hadn't had before, someone who believed in her and a reminder of her own strength. 6 months later, Emma was serving tables when she noticed a familiar figure in her section. Victoria Sterling sat down, alone, looking uncomfortable in clothes that were nice but not designer. She had dark circles under her eyes, and her manicured appearance had been replaced with something more natural. When Emma approached, Victoria looked up and immediately looked down again. "I'll understand if you don't want to serve me. I can move." Emma stood there, remembering the water dripping down her face, the humiliation, the fear. She also remembered Robert's words about strength and grace. "No," Emma said quietly. "You can stay. What can I get you?" Victoria looked up, surprised. "Really? Really?" As Emma took her order, she saw something in Victoria's eyes she hadn't seen before: humility. And maybe, just maybe, the beginning of understanding. Emma didn't forgive Victoria. Forgiveness would take time, if it ever came. But she chose grace, and in that moment, she realized she had become exactly who she wanted to be. Not because someone rescued her. Not because money solved everything. But because she kept showing up, kept fighting, and kept choosing kindness even when it was hard. And that, Emma thought as she walked back to the kitchen, was enough. Some moments break us open, revealing who we truly are beneath the surface. Emma found her strength not in wealth or revenge, but in the quiet choice to keep showing up with dignity. Robert learned that love sometimes means letting people fall so they can learn to stand. And Victoria began the long, difficult journey of becoming someone worth knowing. If this story touched your heart, our channel is full of emotional journeys that will make you feel deeply. What would you do if someone who humiliated you showed up months later, changed and humbled? Like, share, subscribe. If this story moved you, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Thanks for loving Reddit Storyteller.